بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين صلاة دائمة إلى يوم الدين. And today, inshallah Rabbil Alameen, we will start by studying the first hadith, which is in chapter 7. Do you have the book, Hamad?
I do, yes.
Yes. I don't know if the numbers of page are the same. It's 38 on my book. In my copy, it's on page 38. The importance of the intention or of intention. Hadith إنما الأعمال بالنيات, which is chapter 7. Could you please double check on your, on your book to see?
Let me check now.
Page. Okay, no problem. Just try to find
27, page 27 in the book.
27. So the editions are different.
Yes.
No problem. So this hadith, as you can see it on the screen. This hadith is narrated by Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anh. The wording here are the wording from the book of Al-Arba'in al-Nawawiyah. So I chose this hadith from Al-Arba'in al-Nawawiyah that Imam Nawawi said عن أمير المؤمنين أبي حفص عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته لدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. Then Imam Nawawi says that رواه إمام المحدثين أبو عبد الله محمد بن إسماعيل بن إبراهيم البخاري وأبو الحسين مسلم بن الحجاج النيسابوري رضي الله عنهما في صحيحيهما اللذين هما أصح الكتب المصنفة. So this hadith is narrated on the authority of Amir al-Mu'mineen, or the Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anh. His title is, or he is called also Abu Hafs, Umar bin al-Khattab, that he said, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, actions are judged by intentions or Niyah. Okay. And the deeds considered by intentions. This is another like translation for the words. So each man or each person will have what he intended, or will get rewarded according to their intention. Thus, he whose migration or hijrah was to Allah and his messenger, then his migration is to Allah and his messenger, which means he will be rewarded for as his hijrah was for Allah and his messenger. But whose migration was for some worldly thing he might gain, or for a wife he might marry, then his migration is to that for which he migrated. The hadith is narrated by Imam Bukhari and Muslim, or in the books of Sahih. So before studying this hadith in the studying the Matn and the Isnad of this hadith, we need to talk first about the importance of this hadith. And you can see I prepared the three main points about the importance of this hadith. This hadith, some scholars said that this hadith is the fourth of the religion, and even some of them said this hadith is 1/3 of our religion, which means that it is one of the pillars of Islam. And they mentioned the three ahadith. They mentioned this hadith and hadith كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته, and another hadith of من عمل في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. They mentioned many hadiths, which means that this hadith is very important hadith, as we sometimes say that the surah of Qul Huwallahu Ahad is third of Quran. This does not mean that this surah is literally third of Quran, but we can say that the principles included in this surah is like is or considered the third of the principles of that the Quran came to establish. For example, the surah of Qul Huwallahu Ahad includes the Tawheed, which means worshiping Allah and only Allah. And you can find that many, almost third of Quran is talking about this, discussing establishing this pillar, the Tawheed, the unity, that there is no God but Allah. And all this is summarized in this surah. And so we can see that in our religion, many things are related to the Niyah. And this hadith is summarizing the main rulings of the Niyah, that you will be accounted for your deeds depending on your Niyah. Because of this, some scholars said that this hadith is considered or equal third of Islam, which means third of the rulings maybe are depending on this hadith. Also, this hadith involves most of the rulings of Islam. Imam Shafi'i said that this hadith يدخل في 40 بابا من العلم, which means that this hadith affects the rulings in more than 40 chapters of fiqh. Let's have some example. For example, if you took a shower just because you want to clean yourself, this is considered a shower, but it's not working for janaba unless you have the intention. If you have the intention, then you will be able to remove the janaba with the same shower. For example, another example, if you remained from dawn to sunset without eating and drinking, but without the intention of siyam, would this be considered a correct siyam?
No.
No. But with the intention, it will be siyam. Imagine you was busy, you had no time to eat or drink from Fajr, from dawn to sunset. Without the intention of siyam, you will not be considered as sa'im. But with the intention of siyam, you will be considered as sa'im. Also, you can fast the same day, but two persons are fasting this day. One of them with the intention of qada, because he missed few days in Ramadan. This will be considered as qada. The other one is with the intention of siyam sitta min shawwal. This will be considered as the sitta min shawwal. What's the difference between them? The Niyah. The Niyah is the difference. Because of this, even if someone killed another person, if he had the intention to kill him, if he had the intention to hit him with the car, this is qatl al-amd, and this person is a killer, and he should be punished or even executed in Islam. But if he did it without the intention of killing this person, he did it by mistake, then we are talking about another type of qatl, which is qatlul khata. Here, we cannot execute this person or punish him. There is diyah and there is kafara he has to do, to perform and to pay the diyah, but it's not considered as qatlul amd. Okay, so all these things, in the two cases, we have the same action, but two different rulings because of the Niyah. We can see this in tahara, in purification. Without Niyah, your wudu is not good. Without Niyah, your ghusl is not good. In salah, without Niyah, your prayer is not good. I want to pray 2 rak'ah. How to determine what 2 rak'ah I'm praying? Is it the Fajr or the Sunnah of Fajr or Tahiyyat al-Masjid? The Niyah will determine this. Without how to determine what I am fasting? Is it Qada Ramadan or Sitta min Shawwal? This is determined by the Niyah. I paid some money. How to determine if it is going for zakah or just a regular charity? The Niyah. Some people will go like to Hajj. We have 3 types of Hajj. We have Mufrid and Qarin and Mutamattih. How to determine which type of Hajj he is choosing or she is choosing? The Niyah, through the Niyah. and in not only in acts of worships, but also in transactions, in family law, in criminal law. All these things are considered by the Niyah. Because of this, Imam Shafi'i said it enters or affects more than 40 chapters of fiqh. That's correct. And these are the main chapters. If we go a little deeper, we will find the Niyah involving every ruling in Islam, or almost every ruling in Islam. Because of this, many scholars said that we should start any book, any Islamic book, especially the books of Hadith, with this Hadith, Al-A'mal بالنيات, just to make sure that our Niyah is for Allah. Because of this, this Hadith is Hadith number 1 in Sahih al-Bukhari. You can see that in Bukhari, it is the first Hadith in the book of Bukhari, and also Imam Nawawi in his 40 Hadith, with the book of 40 Hadith, he narrated 42 of the main Hadith of Islam, and he made this Hadith the first one. And many other scholars made this Hadith or started their books with this Hadith, just to tell that when you have a good intention, then your deeds will be considered good. But without a good intention, you will not be rewarded for the good deeds. So let's go to study the Isnad. Welcome, Sister Iman.
Thank you, Sheikh. Sorry, I was a little bit late. I forgot, and then I realized.
What is the Isnad? Sister Iman, when I talk about Isnad, what is the Isnad, or what is the Sanad?
It means that it has multiple sources. It's accurate.
No. In any hadith, there is Sanad and there is Matn. What is the difference?
Isn't it the Sanad is like there's no change to the rule, yani it is what it is, yani.
No, this is not correct. Hamad, do you have any idea? This is a basic information. You have to know this.
Is it the chain of narrators?
Chain of narrators. And what is the Matn?
The Hadith itself.
It's the text. So when we have like this Hadith, Imam Malik said that Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari told him, that Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi told him, that Alqama ibn Waqqas al-Laythi told him, that Umar ibn al-Khattab told him, that he heard the Messenger ﷺ said, إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Which part is the Isnad or the Sanad?
Sanad,
what?
Would it be from Malik all the way to Umar ibn al-Khattab?
From Malik to Umar ibn al-Khattab. This is the chain. And which part is the Matn?
Al-Hadith.
The text. The words or the actions of the messenger or his approval. Is that
okay? So when you said Sanad to begin with, and I said it's the multiple sources that are accurate, like as in, which is similar to what he was saying, the chain of authors.
Now, multiple sources, which means like if you have more than one Isnad. So just keep it in your mind. The Sanad, the Isnad, or the Sanad is the source or chain of narrators, which is this one, in orange and blue and green, while the Matn is the words of the Hadith itself. So the Sanad is the road. Imagine that we are taking a road to a city, okay? We are taking, let's say, the I-80 to arrive to Chicago, okay? So this road is our way to reach to Chicago, and Chicago is our destination. In the Hadith, it's the same. Our way to reach to the Hadith is through the Sanad. How did we know that the messenger said such and such? Because there were narrators. Each one delivered this to the other one until it arrived to a main book of the Hadith, of the books of Hadith. While what is our purpose, our destination? Our destination is the Matn. Okay?
Yeah, the hadith, yani.
Yeah, the
Okay.
hadith. But we cannot reach to this hadith in the proper way without this isnad. Because how did we know that the messenger said this? Through a trusted isnad. Okay? طيب. So let's go back to this hadith. We can see that in this hadith, we have these narrators. The one, this in yellow is the hadith, which we are talking about, إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Okay. But it has been narrated. Who heard this hadith from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and told the people that he heard the Messenger saying this hadith? Who was the one who heard the Messenger saying these words and delivered it to the next generation?
Umar ibn
It was
Khattab.
Umar ibn al-Khattab. He is the first narrator. So this is the first person. Then Umar ibn al-Khattab delivered this hadith to another person. Here is this person, Alqama ibn Waqqas al-Laythi. And Alqama ibn Waqqas al-Laythi delivered this hadith to another person, Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi. And Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi delivered this hadith to another person, Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari, which means Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari was a student of Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi. Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi was a student of Alqama ibn Waqqas al-Laythi. Alqama ibn Waqqas al-Laythi was a student of the Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar ibn al-Khattab was a student of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So each one delivered this hadith to the next person. While Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari delivered this hadith to many people. You can see that he delivered this hadith to Imam Malik ibn Anas, the famous Imam, Al-Ghazari, which was another famous Imam in the same level of Imam Malik ibn Anas, and Ibn al-Mubarak, a tilmid of Al-Ghazari, Al-Thawri, Sufyan ibn Uyayna. All these are great scholars of hadith who heard this hadith from Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari. So this hadith in the science of hadith is considered hadith gharib. We call it hadithun gharib. What does this mean? Ahmed, what does this mean? When we say this hadith is gharib, which means strange, what do we mean when we say gharib?
I'm trying to recall.
Okay, let me give you a drawing. We have 3 hadith. This hadith will be narrated by only one narrator. Okay, like the hadith that we have. This hadith had been narrated by 2 narrators. Okay, the ones who hear
That's it when it doesn't sound like a sound hadith like that person would usually narrate.
No, just let me finish this. This hadith, there was only one Sahabi who heard it from the Messenger and delivered it to the next generation. This hadith, there were 2 of the Sahaba who heard it from the Messenger and delivered it to the next generation. For this hadith, there were 3 of Sahaba who heard the hadith, or 4, 3 or more of Sahaba who heard this hadith and delivered it to the next generation. And for this hadith, there were 10 of Sahaba, which means that the Messenger mentioned this hadith for a group of Sahaba, and each one delivered it to the next generation. So for this one, what do we call this type of isnad or this hadith? What do we call it when there is
that would be a gharib.
This is the gharib, which means the stranger. There is, when you are gharib, when you are like a stranger, when you go travel, let's say to China, and there are no friends for you, no one waiting you in the airport. How do you feel? You feel that you are a stranger. There is no one with you. So this hadith is gharib, which means there is no one narrated this hadith with Umar ibn al-Khattab. This type is called aziz. Aziz, which means rare, not so like common to have this type, because we need only two, no less, no more than two narrators. This type is mashhur, and mashhur, which means famous, which means there are many narrators who heard it and delivered it. And this last type, when we have a lot of narrators, 10 or more, we call it what? So this hadith is gharib. What does this mean? What do we mean when we say gharib?
It has one person narrating it.
Yeah, one person. You can see. Even if imagine that we have more narrators here from Umar ibn al-Khattab, which means like some other people narrated it from Umar ibn al-Khattab, it's still gharib, because the first narrator was only one. But this is also more gharib. Why? Because no one narrated it from Umar al-Khattab except one narrator, another narrator, one to one. It became a kind of famous, or it became narrated by many people after Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari. So this hadith is known as gharib, which means there are not too many narrators who narrated this hadith on behalf of Umar ibn al-Khattab, only one narrator. Okay, this is the meaning of gharib. So when we say this hadith is gharib, what does this mean, Sister Iman?
It has one narrator.
It has one narrator. Okay, and also this hadith is sahih. So some people would ask, how can you tell that this hadith is sahih? You say that this hadith has only one narrator, even if it is like Umar ibn al-Khattab or other trusted people. How can we make sure that they did not make mistakes in narrating this hadith? So how can you consider this hadith sahih? How can we tell that this hadith is a kind of sahih? What is the method that we have to use to tell that this hadith is authentic or not?
By going back through the train.
Again. Yes, Sister Iman, what did you say?
Going through the train of
we have to study the chain. We have to study each one of these and to see, do we have all the needed requirements for the authentic hadith? And these requirements should be 5 things. First one, it should be connected, which means this person, Umar ibn Khattab, heard it from the messenger, and Alqamah heard it from Umar, and Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi heard it from Alqamah, and Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari heard it from Muhammad, and those people heard it from this one. How can we tell? Because they were living in the same period. This person was living, he did not live at the time of the messenger, but he was living when Umar ibn Khattab was alive, and they met in Al-Madinah. So there is a big possibility that he heard this hadith from Umar ibn Khattab. And the same so it should be connected. So is Umar ibn Khattab connected to the messenger? Did he live in the time of the messenger? Did he spend a lot of time with the messenger or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the same, Al-Qamah ibn al-Laythi was a person who used to meet Umar ibn Khattab and learn from him and narrate his ahadith. And Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi was a student of Al-Qamah ibn al-Laythi. He used to sit and with him and to listen or narrate his ahadith. And Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari is the same, was a student of Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi. And Malik and Thawri and Sufyan ibn Uyayna and Awza'i and Ibn al-Mubarak, these were only 5, the men. There were more than 20. There were more than 20 names here who heard this hadith from this person and narrated this hadith. So the chain is connected. The chain is connected. Okay, all the rings of this chain are connected to each other. Okay, but
Okay.
we imagine that we don't have this one. If this one is missing, what would happen to the chain?
It's no longer valid.
Yeah, it will be disconnected. Why? Because Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi didn't meet Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar al-Khattab passed away before he was born, for example, or they were far away from each other. They did not meet. Okay? So the chain is connected. Let's go to the second question. This is the first condition. The chain should be connected. This is how we deal with the isnad. The second thing, all the narrators should be adl. Adl, which means a good person. A good person is in religion an honest one, which means that he's an honest one, a truthful one. And how do we know this? How can we tell that this person is an honest one? How do we know this?
Because Bukhari wouldn't take any source.
That's good, but how do we know that this person, Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Taymi, or Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari, or Alqamah ibn Waqqas al-Laythi was an honest person? How can a truthful person? How can we tell? Did we live with this person?
No.
Then how can we tell? If someone said, how can you tell that this person is a trusted one?
Because wouldn't he be a Sahabi?
Because there were scholars. No, there only this Sahabi, this one, just Umar ibn Khattab was Sahabi.
Okay.
But because there were scholars who studied the life of these narrators, and they gathered everything about their life and put them in books called Ilm al-Rijal, the books of Ilm al-Rijal, and the books of Al-Jarh wa Ta'deel. And these books are like specialized in studying the narrators of the Ahadith. And because of this, if any one of these narrators is not a truthful one, they will say. For example, if they discovered that, it's just an example, if this person used to lie to his wife, or to his neighbors, or to his friends, or while buying or selling, what would he used to lie in his life matters? Would they accept his hadith?
No.
Oh.
They will cancel him. They will say, find another chain of narrators or the hadith is canceled. Why? Because we cannot trust anyone who lies in his life matters to narrate the hadith of the Messenger. And maybe you hear the story when a man traveled from Medina to Levant, to Bilad al-Sham, just to take hadith, to narrate hadith from a person. He heard that this hadith is narrated by this person. So he traveled 4 months in the desert. When he arrived, he found him cheating his horse, calling his horse to come and raising his garment like there is some food in it. When he looked, it was empty. There were no food. He said, you are lying to your horse. I cannot trust you. And he went back to Al-Madinah without even hearing the hadith from this person. Why? He said, because this person is not trusted. So this person should be a truthful one, should be a person of like practicing the religion in the proper way. Should be a one who avoids the grave sins, the major sins. We cannot, excuse me, just give me 1 minute. So if this person is drinking alcohol, for example, can we trust this person?
No.
No.
If this person does not pray, not even does not pray in the masjid, can we trust this person? No. The scholars of hadith would say no. So if you went to the book of Al-Rijal or Jarh wa Ta'dil, you will find all the details of life of all these narrators. You may find even tens of pages about some of them, or even like sometimes you will find some brief information in some books, but in other books while some books like for some books of Ilm al-Rijal, they have like 15 volumes, 16 volumes, 20 volumes. Why? Because they gathered a lot of information about the narrators of all the narrators of Hadith. So you can go to the books of Ilm al-Rijal to see, are these people are trusted or not? Okay. And when we went to the books of Al-Rijal and Jarh wa Ta'dil, we found that all these people are trusted narrators, truthful ones. People who fear Allah and will never lie. We are not just talking about lying in the hadith of the messenger, but they do not lie in their life matters. So these people are people who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we can't trust them. But this is not enough. So it's connected. The people are honest and truthful, which is known as adl. But what if any of them has like a problem in his memorization of hadith? Are they, can we try, maybe someone is like a trusted narrator, but his memory is bad. So
that would be the next criteria.
What?
Dhabit. That would be the next criteria, right? Dhabit?
Yeah, dhabit. He should be dhabit, which means the one who can deliver the hadith in the proper way as he heard it, without any mistakes. Not just because intentionally, like he's lying, no, without any even mistakes in his memorization of the hadith. So
Shaykh Haitham, I know we spoke about this last time again, but just to clarify, what if with time they start to lose memorization? What happens then?
Yeah, then the scholars will define or determine between the ones who narrated from them at the beginning of their life or at the end of their life. For example, if this person at the last 4 years of his life started to make mistakes, people will avoid narrating from him. And if someone consisted to narrate his ahadith, this will harm his, like he will no longer be trusted. Why?
Okay.
Because you say you are narrating from a person who could make mistakes. So because of this, they have this term, تغير بأخره, which means his mind, he lost his mind, or he went into Alzheimer at the end of his life. So if someone narrated when this person met this person when he was in 40s, 50s, 20s, they will accept this hadith. But if someone narrated from him or met him just 1 year before he died, they will not accept this hadith.
Okay.
So when we study all these narrators, we will find that they are all kind of dhabit. The other two requirements, there should be no shudud and no illa, which means, and the shudud or illa, the shudud, which means that this hadith is not, or this narration is not conflicting with other stronger narrations, which is in this hadith, we don't have any shudud, or illa, which means that there is no deep and problem, which means a specialist to discover. And this hadith has no illa. So we have all the 5 requirements, and we can tell then this hadith is a kind of hadith sahih. Sister Iman mentioned an important thing, that Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim narrated this hadith. And as we know that the 2 Imams, Bukhari and Muslim, made hard requirements in the narrators of a hadith that they put in their books of Sahih. So when we find that Imam Muslim and Bukhari both narrate this hadith, we don't need even to study the Isnad. Why? Because it's sufficient for us and enough for us when the hadith is in Al-Bukhari or Muslim or both of them to accept it and consider it as authentic hadith. Why? Because the scholars after Bukhari and Muslim studied their books and found that their conditions and requirements were so strong that it is hard to have any da'if hadith in their books. So from like more than 10,000 hadith in their books, there are discussions and arguments about like 50 hadith, which means less than 1% of their hadith needs to be discussed between scholars, and not da'if, but they sometimes discuss these hadith and scholars have different opinions about them. But the other 99% of hadith are considered authentic, and all scholars accept them. Because of this, when we have hadith in Bukhari or Muslim, or even both of them, we trust this hadith and accept it, even without studying the Isnad. So how can we tell that this hadith is sahih? In 2 ways. What are these 2 ways? Sister Wafa, do you have any idea? There are the easy way and the hard way to tell that this hadith is sahih. What is the easy way?
Assalamu alaikum. Wallah, Sheikh, I'm driving and I'm trying to listen to this class. I just didn't want to miss it.
No problem.
Okay.
Ahmed, what is the easy way to say that this hadith that we
It was
have
narrated by Bukhari and Muslim.
Yes, it's narrated by Bukhari and Muslim, and this is sufficient for us. This is enough for us to consider this hadith an authentic. So this is the easy way, and it's good. It's a good way. So any sheikh on the minbar says that this hadith is narrated by Bukhari or Muslim, or you ask the sheikh, where did you get this hadith? He says, where is it? It's in the Sahih of Bukhari or in the book of Muslim, in the book of Sahih of Muslim. Then we say, okay, thank you very much. This is an authentic hadith. What is the hard way?
Through the chain of narrators.
Yeah, to study the chain of narrator, to go to each narrator and read about this narrator. Is it a trusted one? Is it an honest one? Is it a trusted narrator? Did he meet the previous narrator? Is there illa or shudud? But all this work, there are scholars who did this, who did it for us. These scholars are Bukhari and Muslim, because you don't need to study the chain of narrators, because we already studied these chains of narrators and we found them trusted ones and we put them in our books. But if you consist to study the Isnad, yeah, good luck. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no problem in that. Because of this, in general, we studied the Isnad. We did not bring the books because it will take a lot of time, but we know when we go to these books, in the Arabic class, I went to some books of Rijal and I read for my students what the scholars said about each narrator and how they consider them trusted ones. Okay, so we are done with the Isnad and we can consider that this hadith is sahih, and the job of Isnad is to tell that this hadith is trusted or not. This Matn, it's like the job of the I-80 to arrive to your destination, which is the hadith. So we need this isnad to arrive to the hadith in a trusted way. And we are in the hadith, we are at the hadith. So what should we do? We have to study the Matn, okay? The Matn is talking about the Niyah, okay? So here's a question. The messenger says, إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Deeds are considered, or actions determined by intentions. So what is the Niyah?
Intention.
Intention. Okay. So I believe everybody does anything has an intention. For example, when you want to eat, you have the intention to eat. When you go to school, you have the intention to go to school. When you wake up in the morning and you have the intention to go to work. When you wake up in the morning, change your clothes, prepare your papers, you have the intention to go to work. So is this the intention that the Messenger ﷺ is talking about, or a special intention?
A special intention.
Yeah, a special type of intention, which is what intention we are talking about? What Niyah we are?
Intention making the hadith accurate?
No, we are talking
Wait,
about.
I'm so sorry. What, in what context?
Would it be like for the sake of Allah, يعني سبحانه وتعالى, يعني إخلاص?
Yeah, that's the intention we're talking about. Are you doing this for Allah or for another purpose? That's the Niyah we are talking. Is this intention for Allah or for another purpose? And why the intention is so important? Why it's important?
Because it's what your genuine like feelings are. So if your intentions are good, then that's good. You know.
That's it. If you have a good intention, then what will happen to your good deeds?
It would be positive. It would be rewarded.
And you will be rewarded. But if you even did a good deed without a good intention, what would happen?
It would be against you even.
No, not again. It could be again, but you will not be rewarded. And
right. And it could also backfire. That's why it's always good to have good intention.
Even sometimes when you do something bad, but you have a good intention, you will not be punished, at least. For example, the doctor was trying to to make a surgery for someone. His intention is to risk him, but this person died. Would we punish the doctor?
No, of course not. No.
For a good intention. Okay. He was trying to risk the life of this person. Because of this, the intention is so important. And we have some hadith that tells us how important is this intention. That the messenger told us, and this is in the book, in the second page, there is that the three ones will be like will be called for account, to be accounted, will be a kind of shaheed and a scholar and a generous person. And Allah will ask them, He will ask the shaheed, what did you do? He will tell him about his blessings on him. What did you do with these blessings? He said, I fought for the sake of Allah until I had been killed, murdered for the sake of Allah. He will say, no, you did not do this for Allah. You did this so people will say, what a brave man you are. And they said, the people said, what a brave man you are, but you were not doing this for Allah. And for the generous man, Allah will tell him, I gave you a lot of wealth. What did you do with this wealth? He said, I used to donate, to give in every good purpose you like. For you. Allah will say, no, you are a liar. You was giving and donating, so people will say, what a generous man you are. And they said, Your intention was not for Allah. You can fool people, but you cannot fool your Lord, because He knows your true intention. And another man came when a scholar, and Allah will say, I gave you a lot of knowledge. What did you do with this knowledge? He will say, I taught this knowledge to others. I guided them to your way, blah, blah, blah. And Allah will say, not for me. You are alive. You did this. So people will say, oh, what like a person of knowledge, what a scholar you are. And they said, so you did not do something for Allah. You cannot expect Allah to reward you for something you did not do for Him. So, but imagine these people, the Shaheed, the generous one, and the scholar did this for their Lord, for Allah. The people will talk good about them, but they will be rewarded too, because they did it for Allah. So the intention is even more important than the deeds. To understand the intention of the Niyah, or the importance of the Niyah, we can see that deeds considered into bad things and good things. The bad things, which is every haram thing. The good things, which are the halal things, or the things which are considered halal to do. So for the bad things, do you need a bad intention? Do you need an intention to be punished for the bad things?
No.
Yes.
No, you don't need an intention. But if you did a bad thing, you will be punished. But if you did it by mistake, without a bad intention, you could be forgiven. For example, if someone, let's say, if someone opened his fridge or opened the fridge and took a bottle of juice, he thought that this is juice, and he drank it, but it was wine. He did not know that it was wine, and he got drunk. Should we punish this person? Is he a sinful person?
No.
No, because he did not do it with intending to disobey his Lord. For another example, someone was let's say, was trying to or opened in Ramadan, opened his fridge, forgetting that he is fasting, and he opened the fridge and grabbed a bottle of water, and he drank some water. Drinking water in the day of Ramadan is haram, but he did not do it with the intention of disobeying Allah. He forgot that he was fasting. Was this considered a sin? Should we punish this person?
No.
No. إنما أطعمه الله وسقاه. Allah has fed him and gave him something to drink. So he can even continue his fasting, and his fasting is still good. So if someone forced to do something haram, which means someone put a gun on your head and say, if you did not drink this, or if you, then he is not sinful, because he is forced to do this. If someone do something by mistake, you was trying to perform wudu, to rinse your mouth, and by mistake you swallowed some water, would this harm your fasting?
No.
No, because you did not do it with a bad intention. So sometimes the bad things, if there is no intention to do them, or no bad intention, they could be forgiven. Yes, you could be responsible for what happened. For example, you by mistake, without an intention, you hit the car of somebody else. Are you responsible to fix it or to pay for it or not?
Yes.
You are responsible. You cannot say that I had no intention to do this. Yeah, we know, but you caused the harm to the other person, and because of this, you have to pay for it. You have to to fix your mistakes, okay? Even if you don't have a bad intention, but you had no sins, Allah will not write any sins on you because you did this. Even sometimes there will be a kind of punishment, but not punishing, it's a kind of punishing you with doing a kind of worship. Why? Because you caused a lot of harm. Yes, without a bad intention, but because you caused into this, you have to be, it's like a social service or something like that. For example, if someone hit another person with his car and this person died, basically he is responsible for this person, and if he died, he has to pay the Niyah, which is an amount of money has to be paid to the relatives or to the family of the one you killed by mistake. You will not be executed for this. You will not, because you did not intend to kill this person. Okay, but also it's not only paying the money or the Niyah for this person. Today's the insurance will pay this amount of money, but also you are responsible to free a slave, and because we no longer have any slaves, you are responsible to fast 60 days in a row or to feed 60 needy ones. So you can see that there is a kind of punishment by freeing a slave or fasting 2 months or feeding needy ones. Why? Because Islam wants people to be more careful. Because when you hit someone, you may be overspeeding or crossing. Yes, you don't have any intention to kill this person, but this driver was careless. There is a kind of carelessness, and he should be punished for this. Is this clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but for the good deeds, the good deeds could be acts of worships like salah, siyam, zakah, hajj, and could be habits and transactions and life matters. All these are considered halal things. So how can I determine between something, an act of worship, and a life matter? For example, let me give you an example. Let's say, if the doctor told me that you have a kind of coloscopy, okay, and you should not eat for 24 hours before the coloscopy. You should not eat or drink for the last 24 hours, and you did not eat or drink in the last 24 hours or something like that. Are you considered fasting? Would you be rewarded for this?
No.
No. Why? Because you have no intention. You did it as a kind of, not habit, we can say a life matter, because the doctor asked you. But if you said, okay, I will not eat or drink, why not? I make this for Allah. So I will make the intention of siyam. Besides that the doctor asked me, but I will do it for Allah too. Would you be considered a fasting person or not?
Yes.
Yes, and you will be rewarded for this. And even the messenger used to do this. The messenger was not a wealthy one. Even sometimes he used not to find any breakfast at his homes. So he used to go back from the masjid at the time of like duha, like 8 o'clock or something like that, and asks Aisha, Salama, Zainab, do you have some kind of breakfast for me? Do you have some aloof of bread or some dates or something like that? They say, no, we have nothing, only water. فقال إني إذا صمت, then I will fast this day. So he had nothing to eat, but he do not want to suffer hunger for nothing. So he said, I will fast this day. So he turned in this like suffering into a kind of worship. Okay. So is this clear now?
Yes.
For example, if someone went to the swimming pool and he jumped into the water to swim. This person will consider it as swimming. There's nothing. But if this person had a kind of janaba on him and he needs you know, when you are junub, when you have janaba, you have to take a shower. So before diving into this pool, he made the intention of ghusl. Would this be sufficient for him as a kind of ghusl and he can pray after that or not?
No.
Yes, because what is the ghusl?
Cleaning yourself.
Water with the intention of ghusl. And when he had the intention of ghusl before jumping into the water, did he wash all his body with water or not?
Yes.
Then his ghusl is sahih. For example, you went to the swimming pool and before jumping into the water, you said, I will intend wudu too. So when I leave the swimming pool, I can pray. Would this work?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, because you have the intention of wudu. What is wudu? Is to wash your face, hands, wipe your head and feet with the intention of wudu. When you jump into the water, you washed your face, you washed your hands, you washed all the whole body. And you did not even wipe your head, you washed your hair and then everything. So this will be sufficient. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, so the intention is important to determine between acts of worships and other life matters. Between the abstaining from food as a kind of siyam or just because the doctor asked you to do so. Also, to determine between different acts of worships. For example, I entered the masjid at the time or after the adhan of Fajr. I can pray the 2 rak'ah of Tahiyyat al-Masjid or pray the 2 rak'ah of Sunnat al-Fajr or the 2 rak'ah of al-Fajr itself. How to determine what kind of a prayer I am doing? Through what?
The adhan, you mean? Like, depending on what time it is.
Another example. Now we are in the month of Shawwal. Tomorrow, or I have the intention to fast tomorrow. Okay. I was traveling during Ramadan and I missed some days of Ramadan. And also I want to fast the 6 days of Shawwal. Okay. How to determine which siyam I am performing?
Okay, so if it's the Shawwal, your intention could be Shawwal. It depends on what your intention is.
If you said tomorrow I am fasting as qada to make up the missing days of Ramadan, it will be considered qada. If you said no, I am intending to make the 6 days of Shawwal and the qada, I will make up the missing days later, then it will be considered from the 6 days of Shawwal. So the fasting is the same. You will abstain from food from dawn to sunset, but the intention will determine which fasting you are doing. It is the same. Abstaining of food is the same, and abstaining from food and water. But how to determine what type of fasting you are doing, it depends on what? On your intention. For example, let's say that Hamad calculated his wealth before or during the month of Ramadan, and he found that he has $100,000. Okay, Hamad?
Inshallah.
Inshallah. How much do you have to pay zakah?
The exact number, I'm not too sure. Or the exact percentage.
2.5% as zakah,
Okay.
which means $2,500. This is the amount of zakah that you have to pay. Let's say that Hamad, there was a relief organization collecting money for like orphans. and he raised his hand. They said, who would donate or sponsor orphans? Let's say the orphan, you have to pay $500 to sponsor one orphan. And Sheikh Fatah said, who can sponsor 5 orphans? And you raised your hand, Hamid, that I will sponsor 5 orphans. It will cost you, or you have to donate $2,500. Okay. How to determine if this is going into the zakah or just a regular sadaqah?
If when I raised my hand, my intention was for that.
If before paying them, not just raising your hand,
Oh, before paying, okay.
you raised your hand, but before charging your credit card or before writing your check, you said, I will do this as a kind of zakah, they will be considered what? Zakah. If you did not have this intention, it will be a regular sadaqah. For example, I will give you a real example. A man called me and he said, I calculated my zakah and I found that I have to pay $5,000 of zakah. So I paid these $5,000 and I paid more. I donated, like, let's say $15,000 during this year. But later, when I recalculated, I found that I owe another $2,000. That my money are my zakah are not only 5,000 but 7,000. So I still have to pay $2,000. Can I consider them from the 15,000 I donated? What do you think?
I would think no, because his intention was to just give it extra.
He already paid this amount. He already paid the 15,000. Okay, so he cannot consider this zakah from them. Why? Because when he paid this amount of money, he had no intention to make it as zakah. Is this clear now? Imagine this person has to pay. Imagine a person has to pay $10,000 of zakah, and he went and donated $100,000 without the intention of zakah. Would this be sufficient for his zakah?
No.
No. He still has to pay this amount. He said, I paid 100,000. We say yes, but you did not pay them with the intention of zakah. So how to determine between the regular sadaqah and the zakah? What is the method that we use to determine
intention?
To determine between acts of worships which are similar. This is paying money, this is paying money. This is fasting and this is fasting. But what kind of fasting? Is it qada or nafil? Is it zakah or regular charity? This is the intention. Also, when you go to Hajj, inshallah, you know, there are 3 types of Hajj. I don't know if you, if any of you studied like the fiqh of Hajj with me, but when I gave, there are 3 types of Hajj. There is ifrad, which means to perform Hajj only, and there is tamattu', which means to perform Umrah and then Hajj, and there is qiran, which means to perform Hajj and Umrah 2 in 1. So when you are in the airport or before reaching Mecca, you have to choose one of these, okay? So most of the actions, the acts of Hajj, are similar. So how to determine which one you are performing? Through the intention. So when you intend to make it tamattu', it will be tamattu', and you have to slaughter it like an animal to give a sacrifice. When you intend to make it qiran, it is qiran, and you have to give like a sacrifice. When you intend to make it ifrad, it's ifrad, and you don't have to pay out to make any sacrifice. So in many things, the intention is important to determine between different acts of worship. Also, the intention could turn your regular things, regular life matters into worships. For example, Brother Hamad, do you have a family? Are you
I
married?
do. Oh, I'm not married. No.
Not married? Okay.
No.
What do you work?
I'm a dental student.
Dental student. Okay. Let's say that you go to college, okay, to study, and you are doing something good. You go to college to be a dentist, and this thing is good for you, and inshallah you will be a good dentist, and you will earn a lot of money. You will have, inshallah, you will have your own dental clinic. You will cure people. All these things are good things. But how to turn going to college every day and studying for exams into a kind of worship? Through the intention. If you have a good intention that I am learning, yes, to be a dentist and to be wealthy and to be successful in my life, but also I do this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be educated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be useful. I am doing this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the one who does his or her best to be successful and to be useful to others. I will do this to help people to relieve their pain and to do all these things. Would you be rewarded here?
Of course. Inshallah, yeah.
So it turned, because of this, they said, النية الصالحة تحول العادات إلى عبادات. It turns everything in your life. For example, if you are like the father, and you go every day to work hard and to earn a living for your family, you are doing something good. But if you want to turn it into a kind of worship, yes, you can do this by have the intention. I am doing what Allah commanded me to do. I'm doing I'm trying to feed my family from the halal things. I am doing my best to raise family with the halal, and you will be rewarded for this. So all these good intentions will turn even the regular things of our life, turn them into kind of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the wider concept of worship. Worship is not only praying and fasting and paying zakat. Life is a kind of worship. With the good intention, you can turn all your life into an act of worship. And the last thing, the intention could be more important than the deed itself. And there is hadith that niyatul mu'mini khayrun min amalih. The intention of the believer is better than his work. How can we tell this? Let me give you two examples. There are two persons, let's say Zayd and Amr. Zayd is a wealthy one. And he, in every Ramadan, donates like $20,000. But he donated all this money just to show, as a kind of show off. In his heart, in his inner feelings, he does not care about Allah. He cares that he wants people to see him donating this money and to say, oh, what a generous person. This person made a good deed, but without a good intention. Amr is a poor person, and he say, I wish I have money to donate for Allah. Which one will be rewarded better than the other? The one who paid the money or the one who had the good intention?
The one that had the good intention, Amr.
Had a good intention. Because of this, the messenger said that the people are kind of under four categories. قال رجل آتاه الله مالا, Allah gave him wealth, وآتاه علما, and wisdom or knowledge. So he spent from his money, or he or she spends their money for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. and this person will be rewarded. And another one, Allah does not give him wealth, but gave him wisdom and a good understanding. And he say, if I have money like my brother or my sister, I will give and donate. The messenger said, فَهُمَا فِي الْأَجْرِ سَوَاء. They will be rewarded the same. While this person paid a lot of money to be rewarded, to gain this reward, this person did not pay anything, but he had a true intention. And Allah knows that he was a truthful person. If he had money, he will do the same. So he will be rewarded him for his good intention. And another person, Allah gave him wealth, but no knowledge. So he used his money in bad things. He goes to Las Vegas to gambling, for gambling. He spends a lot of money in nightclubs and all these things. And he will be sinful and he will be punished for this. And another one, Allah does not give him any wealth or any good understanding. And he wishes, if I had money like that, so and so, I will do as he is doing. I will go to Las Vegas and gamble. I will spend a lot of money in in the haram. I will spend my nights at the nightclubs. قال فهما في الإثم سواء. They will be the same in their sins. This one enjoyed the haram and got the sins. But this one did not enjoy the haram, but he got the same sins because of his bad intention. So always keep the good intention because you will be rewarded for, and keep away from the bad intention because the one could have sins without even doing something haram, but just because of the bad intention. There is an important question here. Should the intention be pronounced verbally, which means when I want to pray, I should say, oh Allah, I intend to pray the 4 rak'ah of dhuhr for you, or before fasting the Ramadan, oh nawaitu siyam, I am intending to perform the siyam of this day. Do we have to do this? Hello? Sister Imam, Brother Hamid.
Yes.
Do we have to mention our intentions verbally?
No, but it could be mentally, emotionally, like as long as you're setting the intention, you have to set it.
The scholar said that intention is in your heart, which means in your mind. So it's mental thing. So when you stand to pray, why did you come to the masjid? Now, after like an hour or less than an hour, it will be the time of Asr. When the adhan calls, we will go and stand after the Imam and we start our prayer without even saying that we are intending to perform the prayer. But our prayer is correct. Why? Because we have this intention in our minds. You woke up in the morning and you went to the sink. You washed your face, you washed your palms, you washed your face, your hands till the elbows, you wiped your head, and you don't have to mention that nawaitul wudu, because what you are doing, you have the intention of doing the wudu. You have it because you are doing the actions of what? Of wudu. So when you wake up at night, let's say at 3 a.m. and bring some food to eat, what makes you wake up at this time? Do you do this regularly? Do you do this every day?
No, it's for suhoor.
For suhoor, and this is enough. You don't have to say, I am intending to fast this day of Ramadan. No, because when you wake up for suhoor, when you go to sleep with the intention in your mind that tomorrow is Ramadan, I will fast, then this is sufficient as a good intention. There are 2 more things I wanna discuss and address in this class, inshallah. I will, inshallah, I will take a lot of time for it. The first thing is the sharing in the Niyah. The Niyah should be for Allah. But what if someone started the Niyah for something else, but his Niyah turned to Allah later? For example, this person started to pray because he used to come to he came to the masjid to join the activities of the masjid, to enjoy some time with his friends. And he used, when they called for prayer, to pray with them. His intention was to enjoy his time with his friends who attend the masjid. But after some time, he loved his prayer, he started to feel good, so his intention turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, would he be rewarded or not?
Yeah.
For sure, because his intention in the beginning was not for Allah, but at the end it became for Allah. Let me tell you a story. Maybe you heard about Imam Al-Ghazali, Muhammad Al-Ghazali. There are two scholars with this name, but there was one of them was like 1,000 years ago, which is the one we are talking about. Imam Al-Ghazali was an orphan. He and his brother raised as orphans. Their father passed away when they were kids, and he gave his friend some money. He was not so wealthy, and he gave his money to his friend to take care of his children. And after some time, their money was خلصت. There were no money, and his friend was poor too, so he had nothing to do for these kids. So he had an advice for them. At that time, there were like a kind of schools where the kids can attend, live there for free, eat and learn. They will take care of them from, there were awqaf and sadaqat for such schools. So they can live there. They have like housing, they have food, they have whatever, and they learn their religion. So they attended that school just to find a place to live, a shelter, as a kind of shelter. But after a while, they started to enjoy learning their religion, and both of them became great scholars. Imam Ghazali said, قال طلبنا هذا العلم لغير الله فأبى أن يكون إلا لله. We started seeking this knowledge not for Allah. We were kids. We were looking for somewhere to live, to take care of us. But this knowledge refused to be for someone but Allah. So their good intention, which came later, turned all their deeds into good ones. So always, if you started something not for Allah, but it turned to Allah into good intention, inshallah, you will be rewarded for it. Inshallah, completely. The vice versa is correct. If someone started something for Allah, but his intention turned into something not for Allah, then this person will not be rewarded. Can I share the intention? What if the intention, not all the intention is for Allah, but part of it is for Allah, part of it is for something else? Let's say this person is coming to pray into the masjid or donating money. Just give me a moment. So this person is donating. He seeks or she seeks the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also in their inner feelings, they want people, they like or enjoy people talking good about them. Would they rewarded for this or not? Can we say that half of the intention is for Allah, the other half is for for something else? would they be rewarded or not? What do you think?
I think it would be
say no.
tough for there to be an overlap. Like if your intention is truly for Allah, then it would be tough for you to be thinking about what others would.
The pure intention to Allah is something hard. It's a very high level, and for most of people, they cannot do it only for Allah. Yeah, there were some special people who can do this, but for most of people, they like people seeing them donating or giving or doing the good deeds and talking about them. The Sahaba asked the Messenger ﷺ about this. They said, when we do a good deed, we feel happy that people are talking good about us. Would this affect our deeds? The Messenger ﷺ said, "Tilka ajilu bushra al-mu'min." This is the beginning of the good news you will receive. Which means if you have like intention for Allah and for something else, you will be rewarded, inshallah, but not as the one with a very pure intention for Allah only. There is a matter of fiqh which is overlapping in intention. For example, if I enter the masjid and I want to pray the sunnah, there is sunnah to rak'ah before dhuhr, and I also have to pray the 2 rak'ah, let's say, of greeting of the masjid. And because I perform wudu, it is also recommended for me to pray 2 rak'ah of wudu. Can I combine all these 3 intentions in one and pray 2 rak'ah with the sunnah of dhuhr and sunnah of wudu and sunnah of tahiyyat al-masjid? Can I do this? Okay, just let me think about it until I answer this phone call.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
So the question, can I do this 2 rak'ah with the 3 intentions? Would this be good? What do you think? Give me your opinion. You don't have to answer the correct question, but give me your opinion.
I lost my train of thought. I forgot what we were even discussing for a minute. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
But I have the answer. Go ahead.
Let's say I entered the masjid before the dhuhr prayer.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I remember now. No. So I was going to say, I don't think so. I don't think you could like throw all your 3 stones in one basket.
Actually, you can.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can have the intention of doing the 2 rak'ah of wudu, the 2 rak'ah of tahiyyat al-masjid, and the 2 rak'ah of sunnat al-dhuhr all in one. Especially if you have no enough time to do all of them, then you can do the intention for all of them. Why? Because each one of them can be gathered with the others. For example, the messenger said, when you enter the masjid, don't sit down before performing 2 rak'ah. He did not say that these 2 rak'ah should be fard or sunnah or whatever. So when you pray the sunnah with this intention, you did what he said. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when you perform wudu, it's recommended for you to perform 2 rak'ah. I had the same thing. When you like pray the sunnah of dhuhr with the intention of wudu and tahiyyat al-masjid, it will work. But this cannot work everywhere. For example, if you missed a few days of Ramadan, let's say you was traveling for 3 days and you did not fast during these 3 days, then you have to make up the siyam. And you want to fast the 6 days of Shawwal. Okay, can I gather between them, which is making up our qada of Ramadan, of the missing days of Ramadan, with the 6 days of Shawwal? Would this work?
No.
No, this is not gonna work. Why? Because the making up the missing days of Ramadan has a specific purpose, and the 6 days of Shawwal has or have different purpose. So this is qada, this is nafil, and I cannot gather them. Taban, this is the opinion of most of the scholars, but even some scholars said that you can join, but you can combine them, but you will not be rewarded for both of them, the complete reward of like fasting the days of Ramadan and then the 6 days of Shawwal. So sometimes it works, sometimes it does not work. The combination or overlapping of Niyah. And in each issue, we always like discuss it separately. For example, if at the time of Eid al-Adha, if you want to make the sacrifice for 2 intentions, Udhiyah and Aqiqah. Let's say Allah gave you a son or daughter just before Eid al-Adha, and you wanna slaughter this kharoof for both of them to make it as Udhiyah and Aqiqah. Can you do this? Would this work?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, some scholars said yes, you can do, especially if you have not enough money to slaughter 2 goats or 2 sheep, then it works for you. Okay, so sometimes you can overlap the intentions, sometimes you cannot, but mainly if they are not conflicting with each other and not each one of the 2 worships is not required for itself, then you can gather the Niyah. And in these cases, we always recommend to ask the scholars about them before doing to ask them, can I do these 2 worships with one intention or not? Okay. So this is about the main points of the hadith. There are, for example, also the other parts of the hadith which are talking about فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله, who migrated to Allah and His Messenger, then he will be rewarded for that. If he migrated for some kind of worldly goal or to marry a woman, this is what he is getting. He will not be rewarded for his hijrah. And some scholars said the Messenger mentioned this because of a man known as Muhajir Qais. This man migrated from Mecca to Al-Madinah not to support Islam, not to live with his brothers and sisters as Muslims. No, he migrated because there was a woman, a pretty lady known as Qais, and he migrated. He moved from Mecca to Al-Madinah, not to run away from the disbelievers with his religion, no, just to marry this woman. So some scholars said that the Messenger, when he heard about this story, he said, if he did not practice his hijrah for Allah and His Messenger, he will not be rewarded for that. He just migrated to marry this lady, and he will get what he was aiming, or what he was seeking, marrying this lady. So it's known as Muhajir Qais. Other scholars said this is not the reason of the hadith, but the Messenger is talking in general. When you do something good for Allah and His Messenger, you will be rewarded for it. Even if you have other intentions, or if you achieved other goals with the same thing, but you will be rewarded because your main intention was for Allah and His Messenger. While if you have an intention for something else, then don't expect to be rewarded for it from Allah, because you are not doing, the person is not doing this for Allah. And Allah will never reward someone who is doing something not for Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the main meaning of the second part of the hadith. Okay. I hope that everything now is clear about this hadith, and inshallah Rabbil Alameen, try to read it from the book, and also inshallah next dars we will talk about the other hadith. there are a few things I want to discuss with you. I know we have only two of you, and that is more than enough for me. I hope that the others were with us. Inshallah, they will, inshallah, listen to the recording. The first thing is about the time of the class. So is this time from like 4 to Asr or to 5:30 or to 5:45? Is it a good time for everyone, for both of you, or you prefer another time?
I'm okay with this time, but I'm also very flexible. So
So this is part of the grading of this course that, first of all, as we agreed, inshallah, we will keep the class 4 to 5:45, inshallah. And we, for the next classes until we finish this course. And part of this, of the like grading of this course, will be to choose or to pick one of the hadith from the book that we have, and to study this hadith and to come to class to like talk about this hadith. So pick any hadith except this the hadith any hadith, let's say 10 and up, let's say 10, 11, 12 to 27, whatever you want. And this hadith, read it very well from the book, try to make some research and study the Isnad and the Matn of this hadith. I need each one to talk about this hadith. Is it an authentic one? What type of hadith is it? Is it Qudusi? Is it Marfu'? Is it Mawquf? Is it Gharib? Is it Aziz, Mashhur, Mutawatir? This is about the Isnad. And from the Matn, to explain the general meaning of the hadith. What can we learn? To discuss the main issues in the hadith. I will give you about an hour to talk about this hadith, and you will be, inshallah, graded, depending on how you do in giving the hadith or teaching the hadith to your classmates. Okay, so
okay.
Yeah,
Inshallah.
pick the hadith and try to pick any hadith from 10 and after, 10, 11, 12, whatever, inshallah.
Sheikh, you want this by next week?
No, not the next week, maybe the week after we will start. I will explain the hadith, the chapter 7, 8, and 9, the 3 chapters, and then it's your turn to start teaching, okay? I will give each student one or a chance. Maybe every day we will give 2 students to talk about their hadith, inshallah.
Okay, and we should go after lesson 10, right?
Yeah, after 10, yeah. 10 and after.
Inshallah, okay.
So you can choose 10, 11, 12, or up to 27.
Would it be possible for you to send us exactly what you want us to discuss? So what type of hadith it is, the hadith itself?
Yeah, you have to talk first of all about the authenticity of the hadith, the type of the hadith. Is it hadith like mutawatir? Is it hadith marfu', mawquf, qudusi, whatever? And then you explain the meaning of the hadith, the general meaning or the main meaning of the hadith, and then you explain the main points of the hadith. As we are talking here about the intention, for example, and you can I want you to make some research about it, about the hadith, not only what is in the book, because sometimes in the book they are, the book talks briefly about this hadith or that hadith. So sometimes maybe you can search the internet, find more sources to, inshallah Rabbil Alameen, to discuss these hadith. For example, you can see chapter 9, we have a group of hadith, but for chapter 10, we have one hadith. Yeah. So mainly, like for hadith number 10, it's muttafaqun alayh, which means narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. So you don't have to talk too much about the authenticity of the hadith, but maybe you can go and and try to find the isnad of this hadith. Okay.
Yes.
To draw like a tree of isnad like this one. That will be good. Things like that. And then you mention the meanings of the hadith and what we learn from it. The main points that we learn from it.
Inshallah.
Okay. Yani, don't rush, but by the next week or the week after, I need everyone to decide which hadith they are going to take. Inshallah.
Okay, inshallah.
Barakallah fikum. See you next Saturday, inshallah, Rabbil Alameen.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ma salam.